response. Alright, so I guess this is 1.1 for edits on reality. And none of these are going to be kept, but maybe there's something in this video that will be kept. So we'll see. Maybe I'll find some wording that's necessary to qualify something that's somehow not understood. So the fundamental argument made in the last video, I mean the one that was sort of the point of it, this is where we are so far, and establishing this idea that, like flying, okay, let's say birds fly, and I have some birds here at my house, and I could name them, and I could, they're my birds, and there's birds over there. The argument is that flying is a significant event. Whether it's my birds or those birds, flying is the deal. And the flying that's going on with my birds is no different than the flying going on with those birds over there. So if flying is something, it is something just as much over there as it is over here. But I've made these arguments. I made this with kids even. That what makes a kid mean something, a child, is not its ownership or its owner, but the kid's vulnerability, the fact that it is ignorant and vulnerable, and has a delicate capacity. It has a vulnerability. It just oozes from it, and that oozes, no matter who owns it, it exists in the kid. It's not something you're onto it. Your is irrelevant. The properties of the kid are in the kid, in the word child, in the thing itself. So it's like you just won't even go anywhere near this rational understanding of the word intrinsic. Okay, so let's describe, so yeah, there's probably a bunch of these, but I'm just glancing at this, so I'll save you the trouble of the first one anyway. So this is his add-on, so we're not going to talk about the mechanics of the universe without first describing some kind of idiotic goal. The goal was in the title of my video. It's called reality. What's an accurate description of reality? That's my goal. Accurate description of reality. I think it's an accurate description of reality to say flying, birds flying, is birds flying. Whether it's my birds or those birds. Describing reality to see if personal value, why throw that in here? Value, flying, not my birds flying, flying, to see if flying yields intrinsic value, knowledge. No. And yields intrinsic. You don't see the problem there? The whole point of intrinsic is that it's not something that's produced, in the sense that it in and of itself is the thing. There's not something indirectly making it the thing. It is the thing. Feelings are value. They're its expression. Value is flying. When you have a feeling, value is flying. What about that don't you understand or agree with? Anyway, knowledge producing universal importance. So intrinsic value knowledge. So this is just this is a compound retarded sentence. So if we say describing reality, see if value, intrinsic value, yields knowledge, the knowledge that flying is flying, that kids are kids, producing universal importance, universal oughts for sentience. Oughts wouldn't universal isn't the word I would use. Are there consequential logical imperatives? Are there consequential logical oughts to preserve value integrity, to maintain its good flight versus bad flight? If we thought about flying as being something that creates good and bad, creates value, the question to be answered is, what's the rational path to optimizing the value equation? Again, well, anyway, you know, let's move on. But yeah, no, this is more complex than the whole fucking argument. This is a compound pile of gibberish. Let's just kill some of these words that just don't produce any value. I mean, personal. Again, you wish to say to me somehow my personal consciousness is something different than other people's personal consciousness, and it's not anything different. It's exactly the same functionality. It's exactly the same flapping of the wings, rising in the air. It's the same exact fucking thing. Personal in this conversation is fundamentally irrelevant. A description of reality is not going to name every quanta in the universe and give it a separate mission. Electron is electron is electron. Photon is photon is photon. Doesn't matter who went first. Anyway.
As I see it, comes along, it will be, you'll understand what I'm saying only in the context of this purpose, I think. So the purpose.
Well, so again, I fundamentally can't accept that as a rational way to inquire regarding the truth through your personal bullshit. No, the truth is the truth. The statements are either demonstratable and unassailable as statements, or they're not. And I just think it's unassailable. I don't think there is any way to tell me that children don't have the property of child when it's not your child. I think that's preposterously silly. And birds stop flying when they're not my birds. Bullshit.
This is, as I put it, and I'm going to screenshot this and make it more. But the purpose is, I'm trying to adopt some of inmendham's language, is we're trying to describe reality, that's description of reality, to see if the personal value and personal experience yields an intrinsic value knowledge producing some kind of universal importance or universal art or sense.
Again, there's just no way you could pervert this way. There's nothing I've said to imply this has any meaning whatsoever. I mean, I made it clear. Feelings create value. That's not going to be described by this mush. I mean, that description isn't challenged by that mush, certainly. But this whatever this is on the subject would eliminates coherency for almost everything rational. It's an irrational premise.
Now, it's a rather long-winded sentence. I have no objections to truncating that.
Yes, accurate description of reality. That would include ises and oughts.
To try to incorporate some of my language that I like to use within Mendham's, which has made it
Yeah, well, it's just not gonna fit my. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I can't. I'm not doing that. That I'm not doing.
So it begins, as I said, universe, elementary, simple. Then it begins, makes chemistry. Now, I object to the word makes straight away.
Well, the point is the universe has action in it. So it makes. That's what it happens over time as stuff changes because it bangs into each other. And chemistry is the byproduct of that process. The Big Bang, quite obviously, made chemistry. The chemistry stuck to the other chemistry and it made things that we call matter.
In the sense that it has too much of a agency connotation to it. The universe is elementary, simple, and it has the rules of chemistry and the rules of the universe.
Well, okay, so you don't like the word makes. Oh, I get it. Causes. And chemistry is a effect of elemental action. There, how's that? Something like that is the byproduct.
To allow for what the process is that we describe as chemistry.
I don't. Frankly, the processes are irrelevant. The point is the chemicals are made. So, I mean, process is process. So, again, makes chemistry, I think, just eliminates the need to worry about process and just realize that in the end, what is made are compounds.
If that's understood, I won't make too much of a fierce objection, provided that that connotation doesn't ride on at a later point into the idea of the purposefulness of the universe, nature.
I think you should by now know that that isn't going to show up anywhere, so I don't even know why we're bothering with that nonsense. When have I indicated? I thought, well, you're the one that's going to indicate it, because you're going to think that the universe is somehow supposed to show us how. It's supposed to tell us what's important. It doesn't have a brain. It can't know what's important.
And evolution, etc. So I do object, though, to as it being a poorly chosen word. Again, inmendham says, makes a replicating molecule, and so the same objection carries for the next few instances of using the word make.
Well, what's the point then? I mean, this is just going to get stupid. So this isn't what I say, so this is his sentence. Each replicating molecule is insignificant to the universe. Nowhere did I indicate that I'm looking to the universe to tell me, to actually say it, write it somewhere, what the truth is. The universe won't tell me. The universe doesn't speak English. The universe doesn't speak any language. The universe is an imbecile. The universe is vacuous, totally. It will not tell you the truth. You have to discover the truth. Are we disagreeing about that? Apparently we are. You think I have to wait for the universe to tell me. If the universe doesn't say there's an ought, there's no ought. Because the universe, if it's not bothering the universe, it shouldn't bother me. If the universe doesn't see it as broken, I shouldn't see it as broken. If the universe doesn't think it's an inefficient thing, I shouldn't think it's inefficient. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous.
I want to add to that, each replicating molecule is insignificant to the universe. Yeah, that's a touch base.
Again, you could say that a molecule replicating is not a significant event. It has no significant component. You could say something like that, beyond the fact that its significance is in its potential. The replicating molecule, obviously, I think, is necessary to the process of evolution, and the process of evolution makes Frankenstein. That's significant.
Point that we're agreed at this point that each replicating molecule is completely insignificant to the universe.
Everything is insignificant to the universe. So again, I do not go ask the universe. I don't think we're going to see that bumper sticker soon. What would the universe say? I mean, the universe is drooling, and that's all it's doing.
He says the replicating molecule makes tools to service copying. Again, the objective.
So again, this isn't what I said. So again, he's circling his, whatever this is. No amount of tools makes a particular organism significant to the universe. Now, that's just amazing. No amount of tools makes a particular organism significant to the universe. And again, he's turned the universe into a being capable of understanding. The universe isn't capable of understanding. If the universe did have a brain and could understand, the universe would find it significant. Just as if Vulcan, let's say the planet Vulcan, was like right next door to some other dopey planet called Dopey Planet, and they were torturing a Hythloday to make green jelly beans. Vulcan, I no doubt, the Vulcan ambassador, would be informing this other planet that you are in a fucktarded mode. You must stop torturing Hythloday for green jelly beans. They're not worth it. It's an insane waste of suffering. You be crazy, and you better fix it, or you're going to have Vulcan up your ass.
Action of making, it implies this kind of agency when it's not true. It's all happenstance.
Well, regardless, again, nowhere in my statements did I say anything about any purpose or objective being satisfied beyond the objective of creating the sentient organism and the goals it creates through synthesized value. I mean, I did explain it. I mean, the value doesn't exist. The biological organism creates feelings to create value because it doesn't exist. Bad doesn't exist until bad is made in a brain. And bad is made in a brain to create the illusion that value exists in the world. That's the whole point of it, is to make a biological organism that thinks value is in the world. And by making the organism, the stupid, fucktarded universe made real value. I mean, I've been over this. I mean, can't you take that concept, that little quote, and try to dissect it and tell me what violation word I used? How I somehow implied something. I'm saying when our brains were manufactured consequentially put together by the universe through this process of evolution, the function of the brain does this flying thing, okay, this mechanism of sensation, and the function of the sensation is to realize value, to make value real. To just deal with that, the last 90 seconds.
Some organisms don't evolve at all, hardly. You know, they've remained successful, and there's been no, once they've, I don't know, the crocodile is usually given as an example.
A sentient organism. I mean, it's a pretty bad example. Why don't you talk about sponges?
And perhaps the shark, but fundamentally, there's very little evolution taking place from a certain point. It doesn't decide, oh, I can make a better tool and I can make a better tool on.
Again, I went through this in my video. I said it has nothing to do with any necessity to make better tools. I said it has to do with the fact that it's just piling on. It makes houses of cards, and it just doesn't matter. It'll keep trying to add cards, and some of them will work with 5 layers, and some of them will work with 25 layers, and some of them will work with 2,500 layers. The system is just laying cards. It just doesn't care. But the point is the more time it has, the more likely it'll make one of those less straight liney things. The more time you give it, the more funky the crooked lines will get.
Time. It's either happenstance allows that it creates a change in its DNA, which gives result in what can be perceived and casually called a tool, and it can be casually called making the tool. But as long as my...
Well, whatever. I don't think it's anything casual about it. I think it's just totally fundamental to everything that we are. The things that we... Our skin, our every mechanism, every sense organ, every faculty, every bend, every movement is tool-oriented. It's all about tools, and it's all about acquisition of the resources and control of resources, and those are what the tools are for, to conquer environments so you can lay your eggs in them. And that's it. And you see it in the other organisms even more precisely, just how, like the wasp or something, it's just a fucking tank. It's a fucking mechanism designed, you know, in the sense that it's been so efficiently refined in its function. It's just so, it's almost completely tool, with like no paint, with like no name. It's just so Nazi-esque, straight line, hard cornered, efficient.
Objections noted and understood. It's alright. But I've added here, no amount of tools makes a particular organism significant to the universe.
I mean, it's just such a silly thing to say. Nothing is significant to the universe. Nothing. So that's already out the window. It's not about being significant to the universe. It's about something being significant in and of itself, without anything's recognition. The significance is in the property itself. And the argument being made is that consciousness is has significant properties, feelings.
Relevant to any others. So that first...
Relevant to others. I won't even play with that, because that's just plain silly. Brains and not brains are very different. So to classify the brained with the unbrained would be moronic. So of course it's relevant to brains that have knowledge of the significant properties of consciousness. I have knowledge of the significant properties of consciousness. I have experienced feelings, no doubt about them. I recognize them as being intrinsic to themselves, and that no matter where they exist, no matter what birds are flying, they're flying.
Break in the tree of evolution that molecule makes in refining that.
He does at least have, this is my sentence, to make tools to service copy. That's what the replication in the, as I put it, the DNA way of a blueprint molecule that's what it ends up doing. So through mutation, modification, change, it changes the tool set to service the objective, which is replication of the molecule.
A DNA structure to create a more efficient synthesis of a particular protein, for example, or whatever the change in code is.
And you won't have any of that unless it's conducive to the replication of the molecule, unless it makes you more successful in the environment. And that's just the truth of it.
It doesn't make it any more relevant to all the other species, and it doesn't make it any more relevant to the universe. It's still a purposeless...
Well, again, so he's jumped way ahead, so I haven't even gotten to the subject, and he's already saying every tool is the same. A foot and a brain are the same. One does footing, one does braining. Somehow there's no discernible distinction between these two functions. Ludicrous.
Happening, no matter how many tools and how many generations of this happenstance evolution takes place.
Right, so he's just compared us all to baseballs. You know, so if universe made baseballs, let's just say, I mean, I could use the example of parameciums, but people don't understand that that's basically a baseball. But you could take any other living thing, single-celled living thing, and then compare it to multicellular, neuron-equipped, brain-enabled consciousnesses. His definition, it's the same organism. Might as well be. No distinction. Come on.
Inmendham.
No significant distinction.
Next statement is sensation is kind of consciousness. And for our purposes, talking about sentience, also interchangeably, it's fine with me, this language, you know, that when I say sentience, I mean a sensate organism, as Inmendham's put it, or a conscious organism. Let's, for our purposes, it's fine for all those terms to be synonymous. But given the fact that consciousness is yet a tool, you know, you'll understand why my just earlier statement, why I made it.
No, I won't. I mean, yeah, you want to try to evade the truth. Well, okay, then you make some prefacing statement saying, I'm negating the significance of consciousness. Well, okay, you go ahead and negate it. I'm saying you have no reason to do that, no rationality to do that. It's a completely unargued statement of fact. Where did you defend that statement of fact? There's no defense of it. You just said it. I completely reject that as being a truth. Tools are different. Consciousness is significantly different than penis. Significantly.
Motivation, desire, goals, comfort, satisfaction is Inmendham's next statement. And I put a little okay, that I understand and kind of agree that evolution has given rise to these mechanisms for organisms to solve problems for themselves insofar as that it allows them the DNA to best reproduce, gives them the best reproductivity.
Well, again, see the way he's reworded it, right? So he's turned it into their problems. Obviously, we're able to fix other people's problems. The tool often inspires us to do that. So he's negated a fact that's demonstrable in the world already. And it's just the extent or the reason for that understanding. And as I explained in the video, the evolutionary purpose, evolution could fool us. It's easy. So it fooled us into procreating by making sex fun. It fools us into surviving by making food enjoyable. These are things where its goals aren't our goals. So clearly there is no rigidity or obligation to obey anything, because the mechanism of motivation is so simplistic that it can essentially be pointed anywhere, because it has no length or there's no leverage of complexity. It's completely mutable.
So I wrote, okay.
And I would argue mutable to logical imperatives rather than selfish imperatives.
Regarding motivation, desire, goals, comfort, satisfaction, okay, basically, the result is individual organisms are armed with mechanisms, that's a word inmendham likes and I like, of reward and punishment, okay? And that includes, as I think inmendham would put it, intelligence and a scheming tool, yeah? And that scheming tool,
it has to include, so that's part of it. There's no point in reward and punishment if there's no learning. Learning was the word I used before. I used the word reward and punishment because that's really why it exists. Really. That's the value of it.
Just to add, includes scheming for communal goods, yeah, of mine, and there's a kind of person.
I don't know. So I'm not going with that. Scheming for communal goods. Again, that's as silly as saying scheming for procreation when we scheme for sex. It's not, you know, I don't think that's what we're after, is communal goods, and you can see it in people's bigotry. And you'll also see that it's in their self-interest in some way, usually these communal goods. So, and it has to be consistent with what they understand to be right and wrong in the sense of cost-effective. So again, this idea that even that communal is a flawed concept, because communal is force often. I mean, if I was part of communities that I was consistent with, that might be an argument, but we're often obliged to serve communities of not like-minded or motivated individuals.
Personal interest. When as an organism it starts to work and function in a collective fashion, not all decisions. It's not doing.
Look, I mean, I think I went over this, but if you want me to add the third tier to it, I mean, I said, you know, sex, food, and I could have done the ego gratification thing. And the point is, the ego gratification thing is entirely dependent on cultural maturation. So you can maturate a child into any form of that. You can't change the, you know, even sexual preferences, I think. So you're not going to do anything about the fact that things are going to get hungry, they're going to need food. The biological function of sexual desire, if you're working properly, you're going to have it. What you desire, you know, whether it is to, you know, fuck keyholes or women, that's mutable. So.
It's a misnomer, according to Robert Sapolsky, that animals act for the good of the species.
Humans don't even act for the good of the species, so it's just idiotic to think that animals do. But the function is again, they've been fooled. They have socially engineered functionality. They have instincts and reactions to interactions within social structure that will cause in them love or hate. So in a sense, they've been conformed to serve the Borg.
Although it has the appearance of that in a kind of way. The point is sometimes the collective good is my good also, and my offspring's good.
And again, but that isn't doing logic. That's just being an asshole. Sorry. I mean, that's not doing this fact thing, you know, of engineering an answer. That's just going with some intuitive slop. Because you're not going to be able to rationally make that make sense. That it should make any goddamn difference whatsoever. Again, my bird's flying, any bird flying. It's flying that matters. Well, whose birds are doing it doesn't matter.
I think this is a side note, and it's not meant as an argument from evolution, but Robert Sapolsky tells us that evolution.
I mean, you keep using him as an argument, and it just grate on me because I don't. Why should I have to give a fuck?
Managed to imprint basic game theory and understand the success of the tit-for-tat strategy, like bats, and bats milk their young communally, and if one bat favours its own young, the other bats will not feed the young if it doesn't act communally. He talks about I think stickleback fish.
Again, yeah, you can go through all kinds of examples, and then you have exactly the inverse examples. Cuckoo birds, you know, pushing the real eggs out of the nest and putting its own in there, and it's essentially enslaving, tricking another bird into doing its DNA.
It's set up such that it thinks that it has a buddy, and it's quite happy to have this buddy that's cooperating with it. But when it thinks this buddy is cheating on it somehow, its behaviour changes in a tit-for-tat fashion, and that is where you begin.
Yeah, well, again, I'm just saying that that's just so irrelevant, because every one of those consistent with game theory examples, there are likely examples of the shark just eats you examples, and the shark wins.
Good, and expecting cooperative behaviour, but if you are scratched, so to speak, you scratch back until the cooperative behaviour.
Well, again, it just won't matter in so many circumstances, like with orangutans and the alpha morph circumstance. So it's just going to be incidental circumstances that'll dictate whose hormones get turned on. Once his hormones are turned on, you're living your life as beta whether you like it or not. There's nothing, you know, you're fucked. There's no cooperation or any other kind of crap. There's winner and loser, period.
Assumes. So I think I've dealt with the idea of learning, reward, punishment. This is Inmendham's next statement. Learning, reward, punishment, scheming, strategy to solve the problem of feelings. So I think we're on agreement there, and very much.
I don't know how there's any agreement whatsoever. I mean, obviously, the problem of feelings is not a problem unique to you. So there's no agreement there. I didn't say the problem of your feelings. The problem is in the negative feelings experienced by organisms. Period. My problem is suffering. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. It's awful. It's horrible. And I know it's awful, and it's all the things that I qualify it as when it's happening to somebody else. Every one of those aspects exists. It has all of its elemental properties, no matter what brain it's happening in. It is the problem. Me having it isn't the problem. It happening is the problem.
The general flavour of all this is agreement, I think, with the caveats that I've inserted.
Yeah, caveats that basically say the birds over there aren't flying, even though they're flying. Not a caveat I'm accepting.
It'd be interesting to see where inmendham objects, or how he objects to these caveats. Alright.
I don't know. I don't think there's no where could it possibly be interesting. I've been over this 7 million fucking times. I mean, that is an exaggeration, but it's not a very bad exaggeration.
Feeling, okay, inmendham speaks about associating things and so on and so forth. He says, so I insert, feelings are events. Feeling events are causally associated with events happening to individuals. This is undeniable.
Yeah, whatever. No. So again, this is, feeling events are causally associated with events happening to individuals. How do you? I can't even make any sense out of that. Because obviously it's not, some events happen to a whole group of individuals, not individuals, but it happens to a country, or it happens to a race, or it happens to a whole, a whole different definition. So, Ben, I don't even think you're thinking of it in those terms. I think you're saying something as stupid as feelings happen in individual feeling things who individually feel. Yeah, duh. But so what? Individual birds have wings. Yeah. Having wings enables you to fly. Yeah. Flying is the... Just replace flying with feeling. Feeling is the thing. That's the thing with the intrinsic value. And it just doesn't matter what individual is flapping their wings.
A feeling event in me, in the plainest sense, other than empathy, is not
again. So nothing. I haven't even gotten to the empathy bullshit. Blah blah blah. I'm just trying to establish the fact of how the brain works, and that the intention of the brain, and if we can use that word, the function rewarded by the DNA molecule is this valuing mechanism that creates sensations of raw value to associate with things in the environment to make survival and procreation value-rich goals. And it made them value-rich goals by making value in our brain.
Neurons firing us. I've spoken about neurons before, but somebody pointed it out again recently.
Yeah, I don't even accept all that mirror neuron bullshitty stuff meaning a goddamn thing. That might as well be just quantum gobbledygook as far as I give a damn. I don't think it's significant in terms of trying to parse how the brain functions. I just don't think it has much to do with anything. Yeah, I mean, the brain is more complex than where the stuff goes to get initially processed. What's the important part of the blender? The event horizon? Or the fucking blades spinning 1,000,000 miles an hour at the bottom? I think the blades are the answer.
Accepting those exceptions, which are not really to our discussion. The point is I can be on the other side of the world, and the feelings happening to me are causally associated with the events happening to me, and the events happening to me cause no correlation or association with feelings happening in inmendham.
Well, again, and that's just so irrelevant. Again, I already pointed that out in the video, so I guess, I don't know, you just ignored it. Okay? I mean, it just doesn't... I don't need to feel your pain to acknowledge its existence. I just don't. So it's just silly to start talking about causes. Causes are irrelevant. I've already labeled the causes. The cause is DNA molecule survival and replication. That's what's causing the feelings, ultimately, rudimentarily, from its source. That's why it exists, the feeling. doesn't really matter. All this particularity crap doesn't matter. Why you feel something doesn't matter. That's like asking why a bird flies. Who cares? It's flying. Flying is the event we're talking about. I'm talking about the event of feeling. I'm arguing it's a significant event, intrinsically and fundamentally. It is value manifested. It is value manifested.
On another continent. I put it that any other association between my feelings and another's feelings is artificial.
The entire universe is artificial by that definition. The point is our feelings are an artificial creation of value. But the point is that attempt to synthesize value, to make something that looked like it was important, right? We're trying to, the molecule is trying to make survival and procreation, through the food and sex real goal. It's trying to make that seem important. And it did it by creating something that is important. The sensations. I mean, I've already said this.
It's arbitrary, inserted with a personal goal in mind. It says about the hand having no intrinsic value, I think, in itself, except that the feelings that the hands...
No, you misunderstood. I was just saying the thing in the world. I wasn't saying my hand. I was saying anything in the universe, out there. Anything doesn't have intrinsic value. The thing doesn't have value. It just doesn't. The only thing that has value are the feelings that our brain creates. So yes, if there's something in the universe that is a feeling thing, that is feeling, there's value in its brain being made. It doesn't have value. Its life. Its feelings have value. Its welfare has value. But that would be the exception. I'm talking about all the other things like diamonds or this or that. There's no intrinsic value in them. They only have value in how they affect feeling things. Things that make feelings. You have to make the quanta of value for there to be value. And the quanta of value is sensation. It is the kernel.
If that is the owner, and I add this vocabulary, the point is I own the land, so to speak, and the feelings happen to me, and it becomes valuable to me in the senses that it causes my motivations to act one way or the other.
Well, again, it's not that the motivations, it's the way you're saying motivations. Again, you're verbalizing, okay? And the point is, it's the noun motivational mechanism. What is motivating you? The feeling. The feeling creates the state that needs correcting. And there is a motivation in the necessity of correction. That's the motivation. Take away the necessity of correction, take away the badness of bad, and then all of a sudden motivation is gone.
Inmendham says this feelings gives it real value. The only sense in which it's real value is that it's real value to me.
Well, again, you keep, it's just silly. The feeling, you just can't get this, right? I'm saying I can't see how it's possible for me to interpret my feelings as being something only happening in my brain. It's idiotic. The feelings themselves are repulsive. If I have a repulsive feeling, a stabbing pain, I feel it, I experience it, and it's in and of itself repulsive. I don't need an opinion. I don't need to think about it. I don't need logic. I don't need any of this shit. It's by its very nature horrid, awful, terrible, nasty, shitty, significant. And I'm saying it's certainly significant when my consciousness is experiencing it, and I don't know how the fuck you can say it's not significant when it's happening in another consciousness. It's the same fucking thing. Why the fuck could I possibly say torture is significant when it's happening in my brain, torture not significant when it's happening in somebody else's brain? That is a ludicrous, insensible, nonsensical, insanely crazy, preposterous, nonsensical statement. How the fuck can you do that? How the fuck can you experience sensation, know of its badness, and then say it doesn't have that same fucking essential quality when it's happening to somebody else? How do you do that? Let's just get done with this.
Makes actions, motivations to me, and therefore that's the limited knowledge I have about my hand in the universe, is I can say, it matters to me, it's important to me as I am important to me in the universe, but just because...
Again, so these are all things I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing that I have any notion of self-importance. I'm saying, more rudimentarily, what I have is a mechanism that creates sensations that are intrinsically good and bad. And they create the pressure for any motivational, directional movement. But they're the thing creating the pressure. They're the thing with the power. They're the energy of the system. And that energy is consistent in all the other organisms. It's all the same energy, just in a different person. But it's exactly the same, positive or negative, energy.
As my hand generates these feelings, we've still not got from that tool an extrapolation to universal importance.
Again, universal, absolute truth. Again, if you think universal means the universe has a brain and it can understand and recognize the truth, then yeah, I won't use the word universal if that's what you think it means. Because that's preposterous. The universe doesn't have a brain. I'm smarter than the universe. I can recognize truth the universe can't see. It's just a fact. I have a brain, it doesn't.
Running out of time here, so I maybe have to be quick. He says, the point is, I'm not more important than some other intentions. Agreed. The point is, that I would rebuff that with, is you are of no importance.
Well, again, the argument being made is, where did I say anything about the importance of me? I argued the importance of the feelings. I mean, fuck. I couldn't be more overt about it. So you just made this shit up. You are not important. I'm not... Where did I say something about the importance of the organism's survival? I said exactly the opposite. I said, in actual fact, our survival has no value. And that the only way the mechanism can function is somehow it has to make that seem valuable, because it's not a truth in the universe. And the way we can make it a truth in the universe is to make us feel. I've been there and done that.
Except to yourself, value speaking, no importance to the universe.
Again, so you just keep saying shit like that, and you know there's just no going anywhere. I've already said this over and over and over and over. I have no expectation that the ignorant universe will tell me what the truth is. I've done this. I've talked about trees not having it written on the tree. It doesn't say tree written on it. The universe doesn't write what's happening on stuff so we know what's going on. No, we have to discover it. We're the ones with the fucking goddamn brain. And I'm smart enough to know bird flying here, bird flying there, same goddamn fucking thing.
He says, the necessity of problem resolution is equal. equal to each individual.
Oh, fuck this. I mean, it just, no. It's just silly. You say it's not equal. Go ahead and say it's not equal. Okay, that the problem of my torture isn't equal to the problem of somebody else's torture. The torture isn't torture, isn't torture, isn't torture. Same exact torture, nail in the eye, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Their person is basically of the same sensitivity, blah, 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 blah. I can do all these conditional statements. Yeah, there's just generic, my clone, my clone, my clone, my clone. 5 my clones. Okay? Torture. Same damn thing. Torture me, same as torturing him. My clone. Same thing, no difference. This is bullshit.
And that there is, I would add, there is no necessity to the universe that the problem get resolved.
Again, to the unit, he just keeps doing it. Nowhere in my video, no video I've ever made have I ever implied the universe has a brain that's capable of understanding or recognizing problems as they exist. None whatsoever. Never said it. Brain doesn't, the universe doesn't feel, the universe doesn't create value. That's only a function of brains. Period. So I've already been over there. I've said the intrinsic value is in the function of feelings. It's not in any universal function. It's in brain function. The universe is not a thing. It's a collection of parts. And the machine that the universe is doing nothing.
Finally, you say the sword of Damocles, blah, blah, blah. And I write, it doesn't matter. 1 iota to the universe where the sword of Damocles is hanging over. And then you finish off.
Well, I guess you shouldn't have just jumped through that one because that was pretty big. This is the definition of circularity, or question begging. Petropitiali, defining yourself correct to meet your purpose. Suffering is the problem. Well, there you go. So he's calling that circular reasoning. So where do you go with that? Yeah, that's right. That's my experience. That's what I'm telling you as a sentient organism. Suffering is the problem. Yeah. I do it, they do it. Same thing being done. Sorry, can't understand your logic at all. You want to call that circular? I don't give a fuck. I'm just saying that's what I learned from being sentient, is that feelings are significant and it really doesn't matter what being is experiencing them. Doesn't make a difference. Sword, 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 in fucking victim, 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 doesn't matter. Okay. I mean, just too stupid.
Asserting that what we're investigating, and that is that suffering is the problem, I say to an individual.
Yeah, I say to an individual. So, again, it's not happening as a reality. It's happening somehow in the non-reality of individualism. Sorry. No sale.
Not to the universe. You've not done it.
To the universe. Again, he did it again. To the universe. No, that doesn't happen to the universe. It happens to an individual. And in that individual, the value is obvious.
Great that.
So anyway, I just don't think this is resolvable. As I've stated, I have no help for you. In the sense that my personal experience is entirely different than your personal experience. My personal experience is the feelings suck. That's it. The things don't suck. The feelings suck. Period. The sensations themselves are repulsive, obnoxious, horrible, nasty, revolting, disgusting, torturous. Period.